Hello everybody, my name is Cool Blue and I bring out this video of me talking about board games. I'll say playing board game, but this is gonna be the second video, this is gonna be a continuation video of my Nano 9 games review of everything. I'm not sure if I'm gonna put this last with the rest of them or if I'm going to do them one-on-one, but right now I'm just planning on doing the rules in the playthrough and then the review afterwards. So rules and playthrough has been done. I did just get done with a playthrough of this game and a teach of this game. As far as this game goes, or this video goes, this is going to be the review. As far as this game goes, this is in the Nano 9 series of games, Series 1 by Alban Viard. As I mentioned before, I hope I pronounced that correctly. My apologies if I'm not. And the whole point of the Nano 9 series, for those who don't know, which is basically just using a small game, using 9 cards, 9 cubes, and 9 dice, and just kind of build a game around it. So first and foremost, let me get our background music playing before I forget. There we go. We have some nice, soft music in the background, because it's not too quiet. And then moving on into the actual review, as far as the game goes, this game is it's called Railways. It's based on tramways, or a condensed version of tramways, from what I hear, by Alban Viard as well. And the whole point of this game is essentially build your networks and buy rail stations or buy rail lines and then transport people to score the most points or get the most profit. The score track is here. These are your victory points over here on this section. This is the money that you can earn during the game, which will allow you to purchase buildings and some other actions. I think just purchase buildings is the only thing you really need money for. And you can also convert that money, which is called capital, over into profit, which is victory points. And then finally, you have your smog, or your pollution counter. You know, the more aggressively you act, the more aggressively you do your actions, then the more that pollution goes up for negative victory points. Negative victory points at the end of the game. Over here we have our map tiles. During the game, every game you'll choose 4 of these to be your map, and I'll just lay out a sample map here. I'm not going to do a teach of this game because, like I said, I did a full teach on the other video, so please check out that video if you would like to learn all the rules. But I would give a very, very rough, brief discussion here, and oh my gosh, this is like one of the worst maps I've ever seen. But as far as the map goes, these cards become your map, and the rest of the remaining cards become, or get flipped over, and they become your playing cards that you can use during the game. You will have a hand of 3 cards, 1 card being your deck, and then when you play every round, you'll have 2 actions. So you'll do 1 action, and then the card or cards that you played will get discarded, and then you'll do your second action with the remaining cards. At the end of the round, at the end of the at the end of the second turn, the round ends. You discard all the cards that you did play or didn't play, and then you draw up a new set of cards. Actually, let me double check, because I've always played all of my cards, because I can't see at all how you would have cards left. Let me. So what I'm doing is looking through the rulebook to see if there's a discard everything and then draw up. Oh no, I lied. It says record a deck. It says refill your hand with the cards from your pool. In the first round of the game, this is the 8th map card you did not use. To start the next round with 3 cards in your hand. If you don't have enough cards in your cards, then draw back. Okay, all right. Well, I got a rule wrong in my rules explanation, so I'm going to add that comment as soon as the video goes up. But the primary thing that I'm trying to point out is that you essentially will have a certain amount of actions, and you have 12 rounds to play this entire game in, and you want to try to score the most points possible. So there's a few different actions. There's 8 different actions. I'm not going to explain them all here, but these actions will be done by using a combination of rows. What I mean by that is that if you would like to build a rail link, let's say you want to build a rail link between here and here, which is one of the primary actions in the game, to basically essentially just put a cube there. So that way this shows that you own that line and you can now start transporting people between those 2 spots. You could select this action for the ticket for the destination, and this action for the rail links that you need. In this case, we need 1, 2, and you would select those 2. You would put your cube. You would spin the required rail worker down, and then you would discard the cards that you played. And then your next turn, you will have 1 card left. And subsequently, you would do the same thing if you want to. And I think you can pass. Is passing an action? Let me see. says, if you still have enough action cards in hand, sorry, for phase 2, if you still have enough action cards in your hand to play phase 2 after playing phase 1, remember that all cards played during phase 1 go into your discard. Action side up, you may play phase 2 according to the same rules as phase 1. Then you record a decade, refill your hand. Oh, it says you may. Okay, cool. So you can choose to pass. You can choose to pass on phase 2 and just hold on to the card. That might be add a little bit more strategy than what I did in my game, in my playthrough. But hey, it's a thing. And then you would essentially continue playing your game. So the actions that you choose, as I mentioned before, you can choose to combine things between cards as long as that makes sense for the action. You can also choose to use multiple things on the same card. So let's say, for instance, I wanted to transport somebody using this ticket to this I location. Let's say I had the proper requisites on the board. I could play both of these rows on the single card by itself. If I do, that's going to increase this penalty here, the pollution, which essentially counts the penalties that I have for the game. And I want to be very careful because I can lose points, or I will lose victory points at the end of the game because of that track. So that is what that's all about. Another thing to note is that you do reuse these cards a lot, and the way that I played previously, which might not work out entirely well, since you get to keep cards from round to round. Now that I'm aware of that, because boy, did I only just read that just now. You will end up shuffling 4 cards a lot. You will end up shuffling less than 5 cards, and that can be a little rough on the cards themselves. So the way that I played, especially if you watch my my teach and you watch my playthrough, the way I played was essentially use meeples to mark which of these cards that I had access to. And when I played my cards, I essentially put the meeples on them to show that the card was played. And then at the end of the round, I would roll a d6 to show which one of these was still stuck in the deck, with air quotes. And then I would continue playing the rest of the game. So that's how I played mine. Like I said, it's a little bit improper now that I'm aware that you can just pass on your second action, which means that you can carry over cards from the last round. I just kind of played every card I could. But honestly, in this game, you only have 12 rounds. You don't really have a ton of time to just be skipping an entire phase. So I would make the argument that you're always going to play every single card you have in your hand, even if the action isn't going to be suboptimal, as in just getting $3 as opposed to doing something more extravagant or more fancy. So that is just kind of how I view on it. But going back into the game, the mechanics of the game are very, once you get the hang of them, are very straightforward and fluid. And I do appreciate that the game just kind of plays and it just kind of moves along. It ticks along with the timer and it ticks along with the actions that you have. You will get very familiar with the cards that you have in your hand because you will see them over and over and over again. Different combinations can give you access to different things. You can do things like combine 2 symbols to give you a wild if you're missing a symbol. Like for instance, I'm missing both the green destination location and I'm also missing the red destination location. So as a result of that, I would need to at some point, if I want to transport somebody or to take somebody over to the residential location over there, I would need to combine 2 symbols, either across 2 different cards on the same card, and that really hinders how flexible you can be with your actions, because you still need to spend a ticket to do so, and it's going to be a whole lot of gathering pollution. And I like the fact that the game, even though the mechanics are pretty simple and somewhat restricting, I do like the fact that the game kind of keeps you in that loop. It kind of keeps you with those heavier decisions, despite the fact that it's a pretty small, simple, compact 9-card game. So I do appreciate for that. And I do say all that as a long-winded way to say that I do think this game is much better than what some of the reviews on Board Game Geek were saying that they were. More specifically, Board Game Geek has this, at the time that I was recording this, has this ranked at a 6. I personally would rank this as a 7, as a game that I might revisit every once in a while, just to kind of scratch that itch of just doing like a quick little network building, see if I can beat my high score type situation. I do not think this is a game I'm going to go to every single day, of course, because there's only but so much depth in it. But the fact that you have this board that's modular, the fact that you have a lot of these decisions that are kind of bestowed upon you based on the restrictions of your cards, the fact that you have a little bit of strategy, a little bit of tacticalness with just like playing multiple symbols on one card, taking the penalty for it, but kind of trying to balance that out. See if you can take advantage of the phasing order of the game. So for instance, when you transport people to a location, there's a specific location, the leisure location, where if you transport people to that, you can convert your money into victory points, And I like the fact that when you do that, if you have, you only have but so much money you can have in the game. So therefore, you have a limit on how many victory points you can actually convert, or how many. Sorry, you have a limit on how much money you can convert into victory points. And as a result of that, you want to do that when you have a lot of money. But on the same on the same token, on the flip side, if you have a very long route to get there, that's going to be beneficial, because the phasing order of things is you do your transportation, you get your victory points for how many stations you pass through, so you get your just raw victory points, and then you get to interact with the location, which in this case lets you convert your money that you have to victory points, which you have a max of $20 you can ever hold at any one time. And then after you've done that, you will get money based on how long your route was. And that's cool, because what that means is that you can have a bunch of money ready to spend and on a very long route to the leisure location, and then you can do that route. You can convert your victory points, or convert your existing money to victory points, and then earn a bunch of money to do it again next time. So it kind of gives you like a little bit of a, not quite an engine building type thing, but it gives you a little bit of a, oh, I can kind of break the rules a little bit and exploit the mechanics and have a little bit of fun with it. So I do appreciate that greatly. Again, it's not like the most complex, robust thing. Like, I'm not talking like a terraforming Mars, chain this action by chaining that action to chain this action situation. But it's definitely pretty fun, and I think it's punching a little bit above its weight class and what it's doing, and that's why I appreciate it. Again, definitely nowhere near like an 8 or a 10 for me, in that regard, but it's definitely punching a lot higher than what I was expecting to punch for. So I do appreciate this one a lot. This is a good first showing for this particular series, and I hope the rest of them hold up to it. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed the rest of them hold up to it. I have already played through both Empire and City Planner, which are the next two in the series for the first series. So City Planner is going to be the next one I'm going to play through, do a video and do a review of, and Empire is going to be the last one. And I don't know if I'm going to play Empire Planners, which is a combination of all three. I might just pass on that one. But with that said, I do enjoy this experience. I do think this is a really good, strong first showing, and I remain hopeful. Although I already have my mind made up on the other two, I am going to pretend that I remain hopeful that the rest of the games hold up to it. And I say that not to say that they don't hold up to it. I just want you guys to stick around and check out the next video, see how it goes. Speaking of which, that's going to be it for this video. So definitely feel free to check out the next video if you want to see how City Planners, which is the next game in the series, is played, and watch me play through it. And then finally the video afterwards, which is watching me review it, and then subsequently the same thing for Empire Builders once we get to it. Or sorry, Empire. Empire is what the name of the other game was. So yeah. So thank you all very much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed it. Hope this was very informative for you. Thank you all for watching. Oh, before I go. One complaint, if I may, because I feel like this is important. There's a number of rules ambiguities in this game that I think is important to call out and talk about. So while I said I was going to just go and cut it there, what I mean by that is that there's some really weird interactions that happen in this game. So for instance, when you build a building, if you build a building that's attached to nothing, then it becomes a certain specific type of building. But then the question becomes, do the rail stations, do the rail lines connected to that automatically get connected to it? And I think some of those are answered. I think some of those questions are answered in the rules, if you can find them in the rules. But the issue is that you have to find them in the rules. And that's one of those, like, kind of spending a little bit of time hunting and digging through the rule sheet, only to find out that the answer is not really there, and they have to go into the Board Game Geek forums to find out the true answer. And then, thankfully Alban is pretty involved in nearly all of his games on Board Game Geek, so he's pretty active in the forums for the most part, especially when the game first comes out. So he'll answer the questions himself, and there's an FAQ for it. But my whole thing is, like, sometimes the rulebook just doesn't quite do it. It took me a little while. It took me a little while to finally get the important rules thing that if you are doing a building a rail line, that you need to also have a destination on one of the ends. And then also, if you're doing an upgrade, same concept. You need to have a destination on one of the ends. And again, if you watch my rules teach, I'll explain in a little bit better detail on that side. But what I'm essentially saying is that in order for me to put a cube there, I would need to basically have this plus this, because I have to have the 2 that I require, which is this, or just this. I can just have just this by itself. The 2 that I need plus the destination, which is that. Or alternative, and on the same token, I guess these cards are not really helping out too much. If I want to upgrade this, then I would need to have this plus this, which again, it's not a great. Sorry, this plus this. There you go. To actually be able to upgrade that, and the rulebook says it. The rulebook clearly says it. It's just the way that it's kind of laid out was a little bit confusing for me. So call it user error. Call it what you want. I'm just gonna point to the thing I was referring to just so I can give you guys a better picture. Upgrading a rail link, it has 2 requirements. So I read that first bullet point and stopped there, but there's a second bullet point. So very important to read. There's a second bullet point there. It says use a destination matching the link. So there's 2 requirements to actually do that instead of 1. So eventually I found that out and they actually made the game a little bit more crunchy, which is cool. But it was a little annoying to find out, playing it 2 or 3 times and then learn later that you're playing it wrong. That never feels good. So yeah, so that goes a long way to say that the rulebook's a little bit ambiguous. There's an FAQ on Board Game Geek, but I kind of wish there didn't have to be an FAQ. But hey, it is what it is. So yeah, all right. So that's finally it. I'm gonna go ahead and finally cut it there. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed it. And as always, I will see you all whenever.